very much. Of course, we have all spoken too long, starting with me at the very beginning, which means that we've compressed the time for discussion to far less than it should be. However, I do think we need to end the meeting now with opportunities for you to react. Unfortunately, some people couldn't stay until the very end, so we'll have to ask for their follow-up separately. And remember that the challenge is not so much to kick around the ideas as to check that we can actually make it happen. What do we need to do to make this concrete? What can we announce publicly at the beginning of June in a way that is realistic and credible? Donc, en vous priant d'excuser tous les intervenants d'avoir tous été un petit peu long, il nous reste un petit peu de temps pour en discuter et nous aimerions beaucoup pour vous qui découvrez ces idées avoir vos réactions, votre feedback. Le souci étant que nous avons en gros 5 semaines pour mettre en place ce que nous devrons annoncer publiquement à Bonn début juin. Du coup, il y a certaines choses qui sont en place, mais rien qui soit complètement verrouillé et vissé. Donc, comments, suggestions, criticisms, proposals for practical partnership, suggestions as to how we can move forward.
Vous avez peut-être prévu des coopérations avec le FAGE, l'Office compagnon de la jeunesse, à Bonn. En fait, c'est juste que je m'intéresse pour ça.
La réponse est non. Je vais traduire ma question et ma réponse dans un instant pour le bénéfice des non-francophones. La réponse est non. En revanche, en parlant avec M. Fajol, le secrétaire général de la Commission nationale française, il m'avait signalé cela. Il y a juste quelques jours, et ça fait donc partie des choses que nous essayons d'envisager, et ce d'autant plus que nous envisageons comme suite donnée à une précédente activité que nous avons mise en œuvre, qui est indépendante institutionnellement de celle-ci, mais en relation thématique. Un colloque que nous avons fait à Poitiers il y a quelques semaines sur transformation sociale et transformations environnementales, de soutenir le déplacement à Bonn de 2 étudiants de Sciences Po premier cycle au Poitiers pour présenter à Bonn, dans le cadre de la réunion formelle des Nations Unies, les résultats de la simulation qu'ils ont faite à Poitiers fin mars de la COP21. Donc il y a un lien direct et je serais très heureux si on pouvait trouver la connexion qui convient avec l'Office compagnon de la jeunesse. Just to translate, the question was, given that this will be in Bonn, it doesn't usually feedback this way. I really don't know. Maybe it's something about me. Well, apparently, if I hold it off the table, it works better for some obscure physical reason. The question was whether, since the public launch would take place in Bonn, any existing contact existed with the Franco-German Youth Office, which is something the French National Commission is implicated in and concerned about. I said no, there isn't, but the Secretary General of the National Commission told me a few days ago that this might be something to look at. So I took note. I'll see him again next week to discuss further. If you have a mandate to give me in that regard, please give it to me so I know what to discuss with him. Particularly as a follow-up to an event we did in Poitiers 3 weeks ago on climate change, we are considering the possibility of supporting 1 or 2 students from Sciences Po Poitiers to go to Bonn to present the outcome of the simulation of COP21, which they undertook as part of a major pedagogical project at the end of March. So there is a connection, and if the Franco-German angle is helpful in terms of building the dynamic, we'd be very pleased to plug into it. So let me ask you very simply, this singing thing, does it work for you? Cette histoire de chanson, ça marche pour vous? It was our idea, so we like it, but what about you? Those of you who are discovering it.
Thank you for the presentation. It was very bright and the information information is very useful for us. I'm working as a teacher for children, and I see that children are so open to new ideas. And for example, in Russia, yes, we have problems too with climate changes. We have so many problems that this issue is not so popular among population. That's why, but we can be an example for children, and we should show how to behave in this way, how to learn it. But the problem that we have no environmental education. Yes, but I am as a teacher. I'd like to teach them. Maybe you have some, and through the music, and it will be better, because they don't understand what they are talking about, some official, but the music can be how to say it, can be a core of education in children, in kindergarten, for example. That's why I hope that my director and we will use the music in this way. Thank you.
Thank you.
So when we are ready to launch, can we count on you to make what we launch really visible in Russia? Can we count on you?
Okay. Very visible in Russia. Okay. Okay. I understand now. I think that, for example, we don't know about such context, about same context. But for example, in my region, the Ottoman Republic, we have so many unique and national groups that they can make a story, a good story about us, about our problems that connected with climate changes and so on. And I believe that we should share the information, because even to go to reach the Greece, it's rather difficult for us because it's 2 days, traveling 2 days. That's why the information came to regions very long period of time. That's why maybe you were so way.
Well, let's use technology to try to make it faster
Yes.
in the
Yes.
21st century. With respect to official COP21 youth processes, do we have potential here for interesting synergies? Not just about the singing, though I'm sure you'd be happy to sing with us, but about the idea of organizing a different kind of debate that will offer opportunities for young people in innovative formats to participate in public discussion and not just diplomatically formatted discussion about climate change. Can you see potential for good connections here, even good vibrations? Since
Can
we're talking
I
about
answer
music.
this question? In our university, Siberian Federal University, we have like diplomatic school, and in this diplomatic school we have UN models, and it's like games. We always play in the games, and we see how should we react. We are like in the real UN meeting, and we represent the view of one country on some issue. For example, last week we participated and discussed in UN model about terrorist problems, about ISIS and so on. So in that way we can be aware of problem, and we can share our ideas, and in the end we make some like resolution. So I think it's one of the way to learn and to participate in international sphere, and then we can do something more.
This is what the students did in Poitiers, but I would particularly like to give Sabrina the opportunity to respond as a representative of what exactly? What's the best way of describing you, clearly?
Youngo is like the youth constituency within the UNFCCC, and this constituency gather a large amount of youth NGO who are working at the UNFCCC process. So they are pushing some issues and stuff like that, but they're also working on the ground at the national and local level, and try to raise awareness of the implement some youth project. I think there is like we can I can talk in behalf of Youngo because I'm part of Youngo, but I'm not a representative of all the youth NGO around the world. But I think it's a really good project, and we can definitely create synergies between youth NGOs within within Youngo and your project for sure. And also I definitely think we can create synergy between the conference of youth and your project, because there is like a lot of similitude and synergy, potential synergies. And so yes, for sure.
If we are in a position to have some kind of formal, high-profile launch event in Bonn, which might be a press conference hosted by the Secretariat of the Convention, is this something that Youngo representatives could participate in? Would it be possible within the next few weeks to agree on how to do that? Do you think that's feasible?
To launch a press conference between this project and Youngo.
For you actually to be part of the process of launching, in other words, to give a kind of endorsement, even if only by sharing a platform with us at the time of the launch in Bonn. Is that something that can be achieved?
For my part, I don't know if I will be there during all the process, but for sure
someone will.
Yeah, someone will be.
But is it worth discussing? And if so, how should we discuss in the next basically 4 weeks?
In Youngo, we have a focal point. So I used to be one of them last year. And the focal point are the main link between youth NGOs and the UN institution, and especially the UNFCCC Secretariat. So I can give you the contact of the focal point, and so they can diffuse and disseminate the information and try to gather like participants who can work with you better on this project and give you some feedback and stuff like that.
That would be great. I'd be very grateful not just for contacts, but also for your advice on how to have the discussion. In other words, what kinds of things are relevant from your perspective and what are less relevant? What do you think you can do and what do you think you probably wouldn't want to do? So as to find the best possible match between your expectations and ours. So your advice as well would be very, very welcome.
Yeah, sure. You can definitely I will give you the contact of the focal point, so that you can give you some contact of young people. And definitely, if you want, I can follow the process and help you also based on my experience from last year.
And endorsement is very difficult with Youngo. It's very complicated coordination processes. As I remember, also last year, you as Youngo focal point have also not been allowed to speak at the side event on behalf of Youngo, and it's a lot of consultations and before anything can be endorsed there.
Yeah, it's because last year I was the focal point, and the focal point is not the leader of the UN, the youth group. But we have this particularity to give the floor to everyone and to like give a good representation of the youth around the world. Yes.
We need to make one point about spreading all the ideas we're doing here in Russia. I think that's not a problem, and now we try to open a different open discussions, not in the high level that we talk about political level, but between Russian and foreign youth and different experts in Russia or maybe somewhere else. And I suppose Russia didn't bring about a long period of time getting information in the Russian regions, but because internet is everywhere and Wi-Fi is not a problem. But it is mostly about implementation. Implementation is quite difficult thing, not only in Russia, I guess, but in all the countries worldwide. And we try to open our problems to discuss it with the other world, with different representatives of youth and other not only youth organizations. And what we can do is to get attention from worldwide and from famous persons. And I agree, probably we should involve more people who are famous in the world, and not only in Russia or not only in some other foreign country, but the people who can not give an ideas, but who can help in spreading of these ideas. And Russian youth, we are not different from the youth of different countries. We're the same. We're open-minded. We are interested in different issues. We are ready to discuss it. We are ready to take part in this implementation. But we know what we want. We have many ideas, but the most important question is how to do it. That's kind of problem. That's not a big problem, but I think it's kind of problem of everyone. And we talk here about the unique stories. We have a quite interesting story where we started our activity. From the first program, we thought maybe we should finish. It's not so popular, and it's difficult to implement. But one of our students, she didn't speak English before participation in our program in the Netherlands. She didn't have any interest of international development, but it took 1 year for her to learn English. After getting our program course, she decided to study in Boston, in America, and now she's a student of American University. And many times when I spoke to her, she told, now I have so open-minded vision of this world that before I thought I lost something in this life, but now I know that I can do a lot, and the most important that I know how to do. I think that story is like an example that what we do here, ideas which we have here together, it's easier to get it. So we didn't know each other before today. We knew only Miroslav here, and now I'm listening and sitting and I'm thinking how we can implement everything together. It's not difficult because we support each other. We are ready to give changes. We are ready to share our ideas, our experience, what is very important, because probably we are not experienced in new ways because we don't know how to do it. But you know how to do it, and we know how to do it in Russia. Of course, it's our reality, which is quite difficult for foreigners.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. We've reached the end of our allotted time, and we have to leave the room more or less on time, but we have a few minutes for closing statements, basically. So anyone who would like to make any kind of closing statement, now is your time. Please, go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to add actually that I'm thinking because our members, public service broadcasters are not about broadcast only anymore. There are media companies now that are trying to become active citizens with their audiences. So there are several projects now ongoing also within our members that could maybe make sense also to complement this package. Maybe not the exact date, but I'm thinking, for example, of a project called News in the Classrooms, where several broadcasters actually are creating short news for children related to what we were saying before, for children to understand a little bit more of a specific topic of social interest. So what I'm thinking, and maybe this is as a last, one of the last things to look into, there are already initiatives implemented to try to, avoid the complexion of starting from scratch. We could maybe also look at initiatives that are already pre-designed or almost being about to be launched to build on something and bring them together. Yep.
I think the whole musical idea, telling a story about topics that will be discussed at COP21, can be easily achieved with partners like the EBU. It's about getting the message out, telling in June. It's an announcement, but then it has to be followed up, and the messages are easy. Each country, tell your story. It's about producing music, a music video around this story. Then it's about voting, but discussing at the same time. I mean, the rules could be the most discussion theories, the most discussion or outcome even of discussions. With partners with big partners like you are, it's very easy for these 40 countries, or even more, I don't know, there are more countries that are part of the EBU, I think.
We have 50 members in 56 countries.
50 members.
And we're also members of the World Broadcasting Union, of course, which means we have associate members all over the world.
Great. This is absolutely perfect, because the main problem is how to get it out, how to let the people know about it. It must be a very simple call for action, a very simple for the people that print, and then a very simple call for action for the people that interact, vote, discuss.
Music is an interesting analogy. The perception, of course, of the whole COP process is one of men in grey suits talking and not really getting anywhere. And if we were to pick a song for it, it would be Road to Nowhere. I believe that the only way we can turn that into We Are the Champions is by involving people in the process, not only through creating their own content, music content, but also by listening to their concerns and listening to their stories. I think only when ordinary people are involved will we actually see any progress.
Yeah.
Yes.
Exactly.
So there may be some other final comments, but I think in terms of process, and obviously comes with the territory, I'm condemned to be a process person. I think what we need to produce next week is not so much a narrative report of this meeting, which isn't particularly interesting, as a draft implementation plan based on this meeting. And I think we should make sure it's circulated in the middle of next week. And if that means it's still very sketchy, fine. It's better to keep the tempo than to have all the details at this stage. I'm assuming that basically everyone who stayed to the bitter end of this meeting will be happy to read that document and comment on it. Yeah?
Yes.
Then it's a deal.
Yes.
So we will do that, we meaning UNESCO SHS in conjunction with Miro, and that will then become the basis, using all the ideas discussed here, plus the things discussed last night, which we didn't get a chance to repeat here at the podium, but were very much about format and VIPs, basically, to put it very simply. The only VIP mentioned at the podium was Leonardo DiCaprio, who's likely to be a very popular one, particularly with a certain gender/demographic. But he's popular among many other age groups too. But we discussed a number of others, including some very counterintuitive ones that I won't mention orally so as not to start a debate about them. And we also discussed issues of format, how to make a hypothetical 90 minutes diverse and dynamic and fun by combining elements from the selected music videos, participation in debates of very different kinds of people, trying to avoid the men in grey suits and women in grey suits trying to look as much like men as possible. And also perhaps some material bubbling up of a non-musical nature, of which there will be much. The UNESCO Youth Forum will have its own competition inviting people to showcase their projects. Some of these selected outcomes would be selected in late October and therefore perhaps could be showcased again in December. Alexander can tell us if that makes sense. And the UNFCCC Secretariat itself will have a video competition, nothing to do with music, but inviting young people around the world to produce videos on concrete grassroots action to respond to climate change. And again, that material will be available. And with the right kinds of partnerships, we can use it, or edited versions of it, or a mashup of it, to feed into the perception that effectively music is the hub around which a wide range of content, debate, and commitment can circulate if we do things in the right way.